Well, there's Rocky. He's having a sleep in his window on his pillow. He's doing pretty well right now. We had a big chicken feast last night, and it was pretty good. Rocky had some, and he enjoyed it. He was pretty excited about it, actually. He's perking right up and meowing when I was breaking up some chicken for him there. And when I brought the chicken in, he was perking up and meowing when I did that. Anyway, um, there's something that really bothers me, and I'm just gonna lay it on the line here. And I know it's another thing of modern society that bothers me, and that is the mentality of many, not all, but many modern women. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I think that feminism started out as a good thing because women did have some legitimate complaints. And I'm not saying that feminism didn't need to happen. I think it did. I think it needed to happen, just like I think the civil rights for the black people, that needed to happen because they had some legitimate complaints. Even the LGBTQ movement started out in a situation where those people had legitimate complaints, and it needed to happen. But like most things, trade unionism is another thing. Workers were being really used badly, and trade unionism came in, and it needed to happen. In fact, trade unionism is largely responsible for the creation of the middle class and for the high standard of living that the average person enjoyed from the 1950s on until recent times. We're losing ground big time now, but trade unionism needed to happen. And trade unions still need to exist because if they didn't, we'd slip back into the situation we used to be in. So they need to exist as insurance against that. But they've become awful corrupt, and to the point where it's ridiculous. And the same is true with feminism. Feminism has become ridiculous in many ways. See, if you look at your Bible, and again, I know most people these days think the Bible is hogwash. They think it's just bull, you know what, and they don't believe in it, and they think God is a fairy tale creature, But if you look at your Bible, Eve was created for Adam as a helpmate and companion. Now that doesn't mean that Adam had a right to abuse Eve. Doesn't mean that Adam had a right to knock Eve around or to rape her or to degrade her. In fact, if you look at the Bible talks a lot about how we should treat each other with respect and love and so on. Men should not abuse women, and women should not abuse men. That shouldn't be a thing. People should treat each other with kindness and love and compassion, and obviously you're not doing that if you're raping, beating, or degrading another person. So, but still, so if you look at the Bible in its entirety and what it says about how we're to relate to each other, we're not to relate to each other in an abusive way. We're not to degrade or otherwise injure each other. But what's happening now is, I believe it's because feminism has run amok, is women, a lot of modern women, not all of them, but a lot of them, want to retain all the rights that a woman once had, but they want to act like men, but without the liabilities that a man has. For example, I've had women get up in my face in a way that if that was a man getting up in my face, not only would I fist fight him, I would have to fist fight him. Like it wouldn't even be an option not to fist fight him. And as men, men understand that. Like, I understand if I get up in another man's face, he's going to have to fist fight me. I understand that. And so I don't do that very often. If I get up in another man's face, I have to be severely provoked before I'll do that. And when I do it, I know, and very rarely have I ever done that, but when I have done it, I've understood that there's going to be violence. And I've already decided that that's just how it's going to have to be. And me and that man are going to fist fight. And, one of us is going to be seriously hurt, and the other's going to be hurt less. And the one who's hurt less will be the winner. So if I'm on the ground at the end of it and he's standing over me, then he's the less injured of the two of us. Still injured, but less injured, so he wins the fight. If it's the opposite way, if I wind up standing over him at the end of it, then I'm the winner because I'm less injured. Still injured, but less injured than he is. And that's the reality that men live with day to day. And so we understand that it's a serious matter. You don't just get up in a man's face. You don't do that unless you're willing to experience violence. And the thing is, and so that's reserved generally for serious situations, unless a man is insane. I mean, there are men who suffer from serious mental illnesses and stuff, and they'll get up in your face because it's Tuesday, or because you're wearing a shirt with a saying on it, and the voices in their head are telling them that that's directed at them as an insult or something, But generally speaking, if you're a normal, sane man, you know not to do that. And I mean, I've had women try to act like men with me, and I'm not allowed to hit them because they're a woman. Yet they're carrying on in a way that if they were a man, I would have to hit them. So what I'm saying is to the ladies, if you want the rights and privileges of a lady, then you need to be a lady. Don't try to be a man. You're not supposed to be a man. You're not supposed to be doing that. So don't do that. Don't go there. Basically, don't go down that road. And really, if you look at it, what will happen at some point, and it's a wonder it hasn't already happened, is that men will start to, because men are getting frustrated. I can tell you that there's a lot of us that are really frustrated. And if you keep doing these things, men are going to start treating women who do these things the way they treat men who do them, because they're going to say, well, that's just a man. Basically, like, that's a man maybe that is a different physical makeup, but is still just a man, so I can react to them like I would react to a man. I had a woman one time, I was sitting in my insurance broker's waiting room. I had business there. I was there for a legitimate reason. I wasn't doing anything weird. I wasn't exposing myself or touching myself or, saying weird things or perverse things or anything like that. I was just sitting there like a normal person, waiting to see my insurance broker. And this woman walked in. Now, I heard the door open and my head immediately turned. Just looked to see who came in, which is like, it's a reflex reaction, and I think everybody does it. I didn't know who came. For all I knew, it could have been a 68-year-old man with a beard and a beer gut. I had no way of knowing. I just turned my head and looked. It turned out it was a woman. Okay, I seen who came in. I'm no longer interested. I turned my head and looked because it's a reflex reaction. That's all. This woman charged across the room at me, stood over me, demanding to know what the F I thought I was looking at, accusing me of being a sexual pervert because I looked at her, even went so far as to say that I had sexually assaulted her by looking at her. Now, if that had been a man approaching me that way, I'd have been on my feet, and there would have been a fist fight in that waiting room. There would have had to be a fist fight in that waiting room. And, basically it's like this. That woman was wrong for doing that, and the fact that she's a woman does not make her right. It doesn't. It makes her wrong. And I've had people say to me when I relay that story to them, they'll say, well, what were you doing? You must have been doing something. Or that woman, she was right. Like, she had to have been right. Well, why? Because she's a woman, apparently, and therefore she must be right. It's like, no, she acted in an unreasonable way. There was no reason for that. No legitimate or logical reason for it, anyway. I didn't pose any threat to her. I wasn't doing anything weird. I mean, I didn't say anything to her. I didn't look her up and down and lick my lips and go, or anything like that. That didn't happen. I don't do shit like that. There was no reason for that, other than that in her mind, something, I don't know. Really, I don't even understand it. And I've had that happen before, too. I've had that happen in grocery stores and things. Women come at me, it's like, look, I'm buying groceries. I'm not trying to touch you. I'm not chatting you up. I'm not asking you for a date. I'm not looking you up and down and undressing you with my eyes. I'm literally here putting a can of beans in a shopping cart. Leave me alone. And like I say, if that was a man, I'd have to fight him. Basically, it's like this. Stop trying to be men. You're not men. You're not men, and you don't need to be men. You're not supposed to be men. Men are supposed to be men. Women are supposed to be women. And like I say, men, really, unless a guy's mentally ill or severely provoked, he doesn't do stuff like that because, we know what comes after that. And I don't have a desire to do that anyway, but to go after people like that. But even if I did, I'd be hesitant to do it unless I was severely provoked and had some justifiable reason to go after another man that way. I wouldn't do it. And I'd understand when I did it that there was going to be violence. I just accept that as the logical conclusion to my doing that. So basically, it's like this. Women were not made to be men. Women were made to be a helpmate and a companion to men. They weren't meant to compete with us. They weren't meant to be adversaries to us, any more than we were meant to be oppressors and abusers to them. We're actually meant to be protectors of women and providers for women. And that's another area where men have fallen down in a lot of ways. Men have not done their job. And men have become a threat to women in certain ways. Men have been a threat to women traditionally in certain ways. At least some men have been.